So we have these 5 pieces. First, maybe a bit of background about myself. I grew up in a small town called Colliers, West Virginia. Colliers for coal mining. It was formerly a coal town, then later became a steel town. And it was right near the city of Weirton, West Virginia, Weirton Steel. My dad was an engineer at Weirton Steel. And in the late 1960s and early 1970s, when I was very young, everything was steel. All your cans were steel. All your pieces of your car were steel. Your toilet paper was steel. Everything was steel. What could ever happen? Well, you fast forward to the late 1970s, and the parent company of Weirton Steel, National Steel, said that we're going to have some layoffs. And that was a dramatic change because it was just pure growth. There were 14,000 employees, just pure growth all the time. And that was the first hint that, wait, maybe something wasn't quite right. In the early 1980s, National Steel told Weirton Steel, we're going to shut this organization down. And at that point, Weirton Steel employees and the business leaders and the unions said to National Steel, can we buy the company? Which they did. They bought the company. To do that, my dad had to take a 1/3 pay cut. This was at the time when my oldest brother and my sister were going off to college. And so at this time, when you most needed funds, my dad was taking a 1/3 pay cut. Weirton Steel was in deep trouble at that point. They had a few good years after that, which people worked hard and things went well. But a decade later, Weirton Steel was essentially out of business, and now the company is long bankrupt. So this is my view of what happens when you're not innovating. Weirton Steel did have a research and development unit. They weren't producing enough innovations to keep that company alive. I can remember them laughing at a small startup company called Nucor when they were a nothing company working with low grade and low value steel. They just kept using the Clayton Christensen idea of disruptive innovation to move right up the chain. Now they're the largest in the United States. So what could ever happen to Weirton Steel? It's out of business. You fast forward a few years, and I'm a professor at Penn State University studying colloidal systems. And I'm at a meeting one day, and I realize that my mind is not advancing as rapidly as I wanted to. I'd sort of plateaued in what I'm learning in the colloidal systems area. It's at the top of the field, but the rate of growth was very slow, and that was worrisome. So in 2013, I co-taught a MOOC, a massive open online course with Jack Madsen and Catherine Yabuklov, and the course was on creativity, innovation, and change. I came to see what some of the challenges were, why some of the things had stagnated, which led to, in 2017, my starting the Molecular Processes Company in order to advance research faster and at higher value. So that's the story. Now, back to the problem. We're looking at growth, and if you back up to 1979, and you look at the companies on the Dow Jones 30, there were 23 of them. About 3/4 of the Dow Jones 30 was related to the chemical industry or the materials industry. And if you fast forward about 40 years to 2018, only about 1/4 of them, about 8, are still on that Dow Jones 30. You still have Procter & Gamble on it. You still have Coca-Cola on it. You still have a few other people, ExxonMobil, but many of them, like Union Carbide and Texaco and some of the others, either don't exist anymore or have fallen off of the Dow 30. So there's been a dramatic shift in the Dow 30. And who has joined now the Dow 30? You have a lot of banks. You have service companies. You have Apple is on that Dow 30, Walmart, Walt Disney. So you've had a dramatic change in the Dow 30 over the last 40 years. Another plot that I find striking is to look at the internal rate of return as a function of the year for the pharma industry. Now, this is work from Boston Consulting Group and Deloitte, and what they found was if you back up to around the year 1995, the internal rate of return was about 25% on the R&D. So this is pharma R&D, and it's about 25%. The cost of capital for this industry, let's say, is around 7%. If you look out over the years, and this is now 2020, what you find is that there is a steady progression that has left us now at about 2%. And by this time, it's possible that it's even 0%. A dramatic drop in the internal rate of return of these pharmaceutical companies. And maybe you've seen this drop in your company, a dramatic loss in productivity and throughput that is causing this rate of return to go down. And it dropped below the cost of capital around the year 2010. So these are part of the problem that we've seen in the chemical process industries, and it's all across the industry. The growth rate of the entire industry is on the order of 3 to 4%, and it's projected to stay there for years to come, even the decades to come. And so this is a real challenge in terms of gaining investment and gaining talent from students.